Hey guys, it's Shane from The New Loud, and we have a new live setup that we're using for sound. And we've used this at our last couple shows, and I'd like to walk you through what's different about it and what I think is cool. I don't know any bands that are doing this really. We're not using any amps on stage, despite having guitar and keyboard and electronic drums, and we're just running everything through a laptop. So check it out. The New Loud, like any other band, used to have to bring a ton of equipment when we wanted to play a show. We used to have to bring guitar amps and keyboard amps, but unlike other bands, we have a synthesized bass, so we used to have to bring stuff to amplify the bass with too. Here's everything that we would have to bring. So now, instead of having to bring all this stuff, we only need to bring one thing. Now we only have to bring this. Alright, so how everything gets hooked up is we have a guitar, keyboard, and then acoustic and electric drums, and 3 vocal mics. All get plugged in to an Avid 003 and RME Fireface. It's interfaces that bring the audio from the instruments into my MacBook Pro laptop. All that stuff gets run out to 3 separate headphone mixes, one for Radish Beat, one for myself, and one for Jesse. We also take the stuff out to individual tracks of everything. Guitar out, keyboard out, electronic drums out, each vocal mic separate out, to DI boxes which are in place so when we show up to a club we can also make use of the house PA at the club. There's a MIDI output on the Avid 003 that controls our lights. I have a light program. Right now it's pretty rudimentary, just turning lights on and off, but I hope to get it even more involved as time goes on. So with this new setup, not only do we save all the physical exertion of not bringing all that stuff to a show, but there's also a bunch of different ways that it helps us that we wouldn't be able to do without this laptop setup and Pro Tools. Number one, we get completely separate mixes for each member of the band in headphones or in-ear monitors. Now that means a lot because I can hear my guitar louder and my vocals louder, and maybe at the same time Jessie can hear her vocals and keyboard louder in her headphones, and Radish Beat can hear like maybe the kick drum and his vocals or some of the bass sequences or something. And it helps us to not rely on the sound men at the clubs that we're in, because you never know what the sound situation is going to be when you show up to a club. We play like 100 to 300 capacity places, and like sometimes the monitor mixes aren't all that great, and this just ensures that every time our monitor mix is exactly the same. 2, we can have control over our lights. Now at the last couple shows that we tried, we've only tried this at 2 shows so far, but the last couple shows we have these lights, and I'm just doing rudimentary stuff where it's just turning the lights on and off during certain parts of the show, or like kind of spotlighting one of the members of the band. But at the same time, there's room for progression where we can have different lighting effects happening at the same time. And because Radish Beat is playing to a click, everything will be synced to our set and to our music. 3, no effects pedals at all. Before I used to have this big effects board with like 2 different kinds of delays, wah, channels to switch distortion. I can automate all the level changes, all effects on and offs with the Pro Tools system. And not only can I do it on my guitar, I can do it on the keyboard, I can do it on our vocals, so we can have vocal effects. We can have like drum stuff happening. There's just like tons of options for different effects coming in and out, and we don't have to like waste energy and stepping on a bunch of foot pedals to make that stuff happen. 4, recording. Not only do we have greater control over our live sound and added effects whenever we want and more detail to our light show, but we also can record every part of the set. So the tracks will go on each of their own separate tracks, and then I have freedom to mix and stuff after the show and come up with some really nice sounding live recordings of any show that we want to do this at. And then I can get that out to you guys. You can check it out and hear what the show was like if you missed it. Stuff like that. Woo! 5, New Loud is been branching off all through our last recordings, and I'm trying to come up with more harmonies to do in the band. And sometimes harmonies are really difficult, especially in a live situation when you can't hear yourself real well. But another aspect of this new setup that I can use is I can actually record vocal parts for ourselves and not necessarily like play them out into the audience like we're Milli Vanilli or something like that and lip syncing, but record the vocal parts and use them as guide vocals, and just have them in our own heads so we have something to sing along with ourselves, so we keep the harmonies really tight, and that'll help us get through like the learning process of, you know, doing new harmonies and stuff in practice or at shows. So 5 is guide vocals. 6, the sound man setup, and he can mix freely in the club just how he would normally, but the setup also translates to basement and house shows, because I can use the laptop and mix everything through our own PA with only having to bring a few extra speakers, and then getting like almost a club-like sound in a house or basement show-like environment. That's the new setup. Maybe you can check it out live. We got a show coming up in Chicago January 14th and a show in Milwaukee on January 15th. We'll have details on that coming up soon. But also, I'm going to have more blogs about this setup, and as time goes on, I'll talk more about it.